Do we have anyone here that wishes to speak in open forum, open session?
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn it over to Meredith to give our orientation.
Okay, so we're gonna do item 3A, review of and discussion on the purpose, roles, responsibilities, and functions of the Charter Review Commission. I have a little PowerPoint, and before we do that, real quick, if we just go around so we can introduce each other, we're gonna be spending quality time together. So Mr. Neal, if you'd like to go first.
Yes, hi, my name is Neil Patel. I am a volunteer with the city of Sugar Land. I also volunteer with the Citizens Fire, with this Fire Academy. I'm part of the CFAA, Citizen Fire Academy alumni, for almost over 10 years. And I have lived in the city of Sugar Land for about 20 years, 21 years.
And my name is Leslie Nichols. I have owned a home here in Sugar Land for about 20 years, and I've lived here on and off during that period. I've been back for about 3 years, happy to be back. Just wasn't here due to different job opportunities and stuff, lived in Austin and Galveston and El Paso. So happy to be back in Sugar Land. This is my first volunteer position with the city, and I'm happy to be here.
I'm Daniel, lived here since 1987. I've done Sugar Land 101, CAS, CFAA. I get bored and I volunteer for a bunch of stuff. I'm also the board president of the Highlands. And I was part of the development team that did Telfair back in the day. So hopefully I've got a well-rounded view for this commission.
Hi, I'm Meredith Reedy. I'm your city attorney, and I will kind of be guiding you through this process, taking notes along with Shay and Robin, and we'll help you get your presentation together when you come up with what you'd like to introduce to City Council.
Hi, I'm Shay Smith. I'm an assistant city attorney. I work for Meredith. This will be my first charter review, so I'm very excited to learn and see everyone's input.
All right, so I'm David James. Actually been here in Sugar Land probably 27 years or so. Yeah, 27 years. Been served on or currently serve on the zoning board of adjustments. I was on the mobility task force. I worked for Chevron, so we've been there for a number of years, kind of in the project management space. So, yeah, so with that.
Good. I'm Bob Barber, self-employed, been in Fort Bend for 75, resident of Sugar Land for about 25 years. I took Sugar Land leaders like you did, police academy, fire academy, well, not academy, police academy. And I was on the zoning commission, or redistricting commission, that's where you're. And now I'm here. Really enjoy it.
And I'm Robin Livio, the city secretary. I used to work in Sugar Land a while ago, left. Now I'm back. I also report to Meredith. So I'll be taking good notes, hopefully for you all. And if you have any questions, once you see minutes, don't hesitate to reach out. Okay, thank you.
There's a couple other folks.
Yes, the two more people that are on this board, we have a Tara Mascarenhas and Ashish Vyas, I believe. Okay, Tara had RSVP'd. I suspect the weather is probably slowing her down. And then Mr. Vyas.
Yes.
Vyas is out of town, and hopefully will join us at our next. So I'm going to do a real quick PowerPoint, and then we'll have a little bit of discussion. Next slide, please. So this is how we're going to start. The charter requires us to do this every 5 years. Congratulations, it's been 5 years. There's 3 types of cities in Texas. You have the general law, you have special law, and you have home rule. So general law under state law kind of get to do only what the statute says they get to do. It's type A, B, or C. And there's some nuances, but that's not really important to y'all. There's special law cities, and that is where the fine folks in Austin put together some law and made them their own special city. And then you have something called a home rule city. Sugar Land is a home rule city since 1979, and we adopted our first charter in 1981. So what is a home rule municipality? We are kind of like a free-for-all with a little bit of outside rules. So we have the full power of self-government, and we only look to state law for limitations of our power. Now, I should have put an asterisk here because the last legislative session, folks in Austin did pass a law that says, hold up, maybe not. We think that you're okay, but we're not sure we like you, and we're gonna limit some of the things you do, so if it's not here, you can't do it. There is a lawsuit pending, so we don't really know how that's gonna play out, but we kind of said, well, you know, you made this law. The state constitution says we're a home rule and you can't really beat the state constitution without an election. So we're kind of in a holding pattern as far as whether or not we believe them in Austin, as far as we have to stay within the bounds. But so far in my brief history of Sugar Land, we have always been in the bounds. We have not been challenged on anything we've done, and we've done some pretty amazing things. So you're saying, what is this charter? It's basically the founding document of the city. It says kind of what we are, what we do, who we are. And if you work for a corporation, this is kind of our articles of incorporation. It lays out who can be employed and our basic requirements. It's the basic structure and process of the city. Okay. So what is it? Typical charter set out, you know, as you can read, form of government, power of the city, election qualifications, initiative, referendum, recall how that's done. Establishes key staff, police department, city manager, city secretary, city attorney, and planning, budget, court, and planning and zoning commissions must be established through charter or otherwise it's your city council. So as I mentioned, the state constitution, here we go, Article 11, Section 5. Anybody over 5,000 can have a vote, and if you decide you want to be home ruled, you can adopt a charter. And we did that in 1979, and we adopted our first charter in 1981. And there is a state law that says once you get everybody together and they talk about it, you can't, and you had to take it to an election, you can't touch it for a few years. So this gives you an opportunity, once your commission has put together a plan and you got it voted on by your citizens, to see if it actually works before you say, hey, maybe I don't like that. We want to be respectful of your time. Our particular charter has a provision that requires us to review it every 5 years. That's one of the provisions Joe will look at today, or it's not today, but in this process as to whether you think 5 years is too often, not enough, or just right. Look, kind of a lot of the things we're doing, we're gonna think about Goldilocks in the forage. Is this good? Should I tweak it? Not so good. So we're gonna look at it kind of from that viewpoint. So we have some legal authority. You know, this basically says how we get to do this. Chapter 9, chapter 26, chapter 277 sets forth kind of how if somebody from the public who is not appointed to this commission wants to make changes, they can fill out a petition and submit it to the city secretary's office, and Robin will take it to city council and we'll look at it to see if it qualifies. Okay, so section 9.005 requires an election. So city council cannot unilaterally make changes to this charter. It's like the state constitution. Only the electorate can do that. So legal authority, I said every 5 years you get to have a party, get together and talk about what changes you think should be done. Most recently was done in 2018. And so this is just more kind of your charge that you're gonna look at the charter, you're gonna make recommendations to the city council, and they will determine what changes, if they deem appropriate, will go on the ballot. So you've got three basic requirements. You review the charter, you're gonna make recommendations, and you're gonna tell city council what those recommendations are. Any questions over that?
Pretty simple.
It is pretty simple.
I had a little question. When you said the lawsuit, is that by Sugar Land or did TMLA spearhead that or?
The lawsuit on whether or not that bill is, it's pretty much most cities in Texas have joined, so there is pretty much, there's about 3 or 4 different class actions.
Okay.
And I don't recall which particular one we're in, but there's
That's
three,
what I figured. I was just curious if it was an
there's 3
individual
different
thing or.
ones. And there were, each one is alleging a different reason why it's invalid, so that we're attacking it from 3 sides, as opposed to we all put all the eggs in one basket.
Right.
We divvied them up and said, okay, you challenge this part, you challenge this part, and that way, hopefully something will stick and we can all work together, but then we're not duplicating work that way. So, okay, so let me go over some more stuff. So basically, I have an ideal charter process. This is how I've done it in the past, but I would like your input as to what changes will work best for you all, because this is your committee, this is your commission, these are your recommendations to city council. Robin, Shay, and I are here to do research and to be the scribe. At the end of the day, this is your work product, this is your recommendation. The only time we're gonna really get involved is say, you know what, this is what state law says, there's a little bit of a concern to go there. Otherwise, this is yours. So you were running the show, they're just here to help guide you. In the past, I've done this orientation. And at the orientation, I hand out 2 documents, which you have in front of you. I will tell you, I'm not much of a paper person. I prefer to email everything. But these two are probably the most important thing that you will need during this process, other than our actual charter. This is the model charter put out by the League of Cities, and then there's a process or, a guide as to suggestions that's put out in the United States as to how you approach this. Now, you will look at the model charter and you know, that looks nothing like the city's charter. A model charter is very detailed. You will do this on Tuesday when it's a full moon. You will look at our charter and say, well, you do this 3 times a month. We try to build in a little bit of flexibility to our charter, historically, so that it's more, flexible as time changes. If y'all don't agree with it, let's make changes. If you agree with it, let's tweak it. But that is for you to decide, you know, what comfort level you are between where we are now, what's the model, and any other questions you come up along. As you've lived here, you've seen different things happen, you go, maybe this should be addressed. You've seen how things happen in other cities, you say, maybe that should be addressed. There are a number of other cities such as Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, and I think a fourth one that are also doing charter review processes right now. I am getting copies of their suggested revisions. I can provide those to you as we go along, the sections that they're looking at changing. I also will explain to you as we go along, when different charter committees have met and they looked at those different sections, what changes they recommended, what changes have passed, what changes didn't pass. And I can even drill down and get you the percentage of votes, if that's important to you to know, how close was this to passing? Should we try again or not try again? So I can get you just about any data you want as you're making your review and you're making your recommendations. Between Robin, Shay, and myself, I'm almost 100% confident we will find you the answer if you need that data. And so what I have done historically as well is that the charter is broken into 6 different articles. And some of the articles are very short, like Article 1, general provisions, there's not a whole lot you're gonna do. Article 2 and 3, that's the council initiative and referendum and recall, those are pretty lengthy. So I like to basically set one easy one and then have a couple meetings for longer ones, so that you have a chance. We're gonna go in order, because I don't wanna just jump all around. It doesn't make sense if you jump all around. So we'll do the basic stuff and then we'll start this. You'll give me homework. I will go and do the research. I may share some of it with Robin and Shay. We will get that information to you. We'll email it to you ahead of your meeting. And then we'll sit down in the meeting and discuss, based on this provision, you said, okay, term limits, what other cities have for term limits? Is, 2 years, 3 years, 9 years, 15 years. What are those? Is it 3 terms, 8 years? Whatever your questions are, we will look throughout the state of Texas and for similar provisions. We'll define cities our size, as well as cities smaller and larger, all home rule, because you have to be home rule to have a charter, and we will compare it to it. If you have cities that you particularly like, let us know what those cities are. We'll make sure that we get you those provisions as well. If you think the city is very well run, make sure that you have that information in front of you. Like I said, I'm not a paper person, so I will email those to you so that you can mark it up. There is no expectation of you doing any work outside of this room, because this is subject to open meetings and open records. And so we are not going to have discussions outside this room where we email each other and make comments. Everything's going to happen in here on the record with the camera running, so that our residents have an opportunity. And you have an opportunity if you want to go home and watch back on the meeting and say, I didn't quite remember this, and you have exactly what happened. We're not going to do it outside. Everything happens in here. We're going to be transparent, and it's going to be a discussion amongst y'all. I would like at the very next meeting for the city manager and city council members to come and talk to you. So the city manager is basically the CEO of the city. I would like him, Mike Goodrum, to come forward and say, hey, this is how it runs. This is how the charter applies in his viewpoint and what works and doesn't work. I would also like to invite the council members to come talk to you. In the past, they have had some very good suggestions that the different commissions have looked at as far as term limits, recall, and that sort of thing. And I would like for you to hear their input. Now, recognize it's input. You still do what you want. You still make the recommendation that you believe is best for this city. So you'll be getting emails, most likely from a gentleman named Brandon Jackson. He is our office manager, paralegal, keeper of all things that the legal department does. And so you can respond, you can email him back, reply to him. Please do not reply all, because then you kind of have a little quorum issue, and he's very fast about responding and getting whatever. So I've talked a lot. Before we go on to setting meeting dates and that sort of thing, what questions do you have?
Well, just a total tangent. So you talk about the term limits, whatever. It seems like just a couple of years ago, we voted on extending city council term limits.
Yes, sir.
How did that happen outside the charter review process?
It did not. Part of the 2018 Charter Review Committee was to go from 2 to 3 year terms. It was supposed to be the May 2020 election, but COVID happened, so it got pushed to November. So November of 2020, we did have a charter election, And the voters did vote this time to go from 2 to 3. And it became staggered, and then we had to do a phasing in.
Sure,
because
okay,
we
but
had
so that
to-
still was a result of the previous charter, it just took a little
Absolutely.
time, so whatever, okay, so that helps me understand, so whatever we come up here in 2024, it may or may not be on the ballot in 24, maybe.
It will not be in the ballot in May, because we will be calling the May election in February. I timed this because I do not want your work, I don't want you to feel pressure like, oh my gosh, I've got to get this done so that I make the election deadline. Nor do I want any of your work to be tied to somebody's campaign. I want this to be, what, I want this to be a.
No.
So that you. But I also want whatever results in the May election for those individuals to be the ones you make your presentation to, and for those individuals to be the ones that say, yes, this should go forward or not, because they are the ones that are in charge. And
Okay, so
then-
that's helpful, so over the course, we'll make these recommendations, but it won't really manifest itself until the May 2025 election. At this.
Generally speaking, we like to put the recommendations on a mayoral election because we have a greater turnout because it's citywide.
Sure.
This May is a district election, and if we have nobody run for that particular district, we cancel it. And so that keeps those individuals from wanting to show up, because if they're only voting for charter and not, hi, are you Tara?
Yes.
Hi, Tara, nice to meet you. I have a
Okay.
packet for you. Oh, it's okay. It's a rainy day, I understand.
Okay, so thank you for clarifying. that.
Sure, and really, there is no end date to this, so you take as much time as you like. So, you just, it just grows, so if you wanna meet once a month, if you wanna meet twice a month, which is what we've done historically, but depending on your schedules, maybe every 3 weeks works best for you all. But this is your board, we are here to facilitate it, but you take your time, and once y'all are comfortable with it, then you will be on a council agenda to make your presentation to them. But I will tell you that your presentation to them will not be scheduled till after June, because I want, whatever the election results to be, I want your presentation to be to the sitting council members,
Mhm.
because they are the ones that make the decision. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. And when I laughed, I just thought that was funny. That wasn't anything.
No, it's okay. You can't offend me. I tried very hard.
I love watching politics and stuff, so it just made me. Yeah, we don't want to, I'm sure none of us want to get involved in the campaign either. So it's not, I saw like our commission dates have an end date, so it's not a hard and fast, like we don't have a hard stop if we did. Like if we were involved in stuff and then we needed longer, would it go past June, or are we?
It will take as long as y'all need it to
Okay.
take to be comfortable with your recommendations to city council. It was just, I guess that was a date to say it wouldn't be done before then, because I'm very conscientious of the election day and want to make sure that your work is not influenced whatsoever by that, and there's no pressure on you all to make that deadline. There may be a November election, November 2024, I don't know. But most likely, this would be the May 2025, because it is mayoral, and that's when we have the best turnout. Because we want the most people
Yeah,
possible to vote on this.
I read over the charter and then I went back and reviewed all the revisions that were made over a period of time. And they were so minor, especially the last time you guys met. I don't see where we're gonna be doing a whole lot of changing to this charter. Just some, maybe a few minor tweaks.
And that's.
I mean, do you see anything different from that?
Well, I can tell, I have a list of everything that has gone, the votes and everything, and last time we took 18 provisions. And they all passed.
Mhm.
And so, a lot of it is, that was house cleaning. It was just kind of like, you had council members, and councilmen. It's like, well, they didn't match, and we wanted to match them all up, but then we had the provision where it changed from 2 years to 3 years, and we had to put a staggering. There is a provision in here that I'm going to ask that when we move forward, you recommend that be removed. And that is the resign to run provision, because under the state constitution, if you have terms greater than 3 years, it automatically happens. That was a fallback if the 3-year provision did not pass, so that it would work for the 2-year provision. And we had, it was kind of a mess where if you had a certain time period, we had to call an election, but then you call the election, the person sit there for a month. And it really was a waste of tax dollars to go through all that if we could appoint somebody for 12 months. So that is one item we're gonna look at.
Okay.
But we will go through it line by line, article, section, and if you're happy with it, that's fine. If you wanna make changes, that's fine. We are here to bring you copies of whatever city you like, but it has, like I said, in 1979, they decided to have home rule. We had an election 81 adopted, in 86, 5 passed, 96 passed. 19 passed, and we've gone crazy, and then for a while, we had no recommendations, and some failed, only some passed, 3 of 8 passed, and so it's been kind of long. But the things that are most looked at, I can tell you, is the recall, initiative and referendum, the percentages. So they like to recommend different percentages, and previous commissions have looked at whether or not it's a percentage of voters, percentage of people who voted in the last election, percentage of registered voters, percentage of qualified voters, because you may be qualified to vote, but you're not a registered voter. And so they look at those different things, and some of the discussions they've gone into, and we'll go into more detail when we get to those sections. It's like, well, okay, the last turnout, the people who vote, the percentage of the people who voted in the last election. Well, if the last election is a district election, as opposed to a citywide election or a charter election or a bond election, it's not very consistent. So they've always been looking at trying to find ways to do it. And we'll go through the math if you'd like. We'll say, percentage of this, percentage of this. That's where Robin really comes in, because she's really good with the election information and the percentage. But those are what they spend a lot of time on, and term limits has come up quite a bit.
So 6 articles, and we're gonna do 2 at each session,
Not necessarily.
okay?
So, the next session will have the comments from anybody, like council members and the mayor. We'll do Article 1, general provisions, which is really basically, hey, we're home rule, we could be sued, not sued, that sort of thing, basic stuff that you're probably not gonna make any changes to. And we'll start Article 2. Article 2 typically takes 2 meetings. That's pretty in-depth, because that's about the council, the legislation, how they run their meetings. And then we'll go into initiative, referendum, and recall. That has historically taken 2 to 3 meetings. But I will always be prepared for 1 article ahead, so if you get ahead, we can go ahead and start that next one at that meeting. We're not gonna say on the posted agenda, we're only gonna talk about this one. If y'all are happy and full speed ahead, or you wanna go for an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever you like, we'll go as long as you want.
Now, I was trying to drill down about how many meetings do you think we're gonna need in order to this passed.
Depends on how detailed they wanna get.
I would think 10 at absolute most, recognizing that the last 2 would be reviewing your, report to city council and the PowerPoint, and the last one being your presentation to city council. So I would think that after today, maybe 7 or 8 just of this, and then, like I said, the review of the presentation and the presentation to city council, I would consider as meetings 9 and 10.
My apologies, since I came late, you might have covered this,
Oh, yes.
but will all the meetings be in person?
I need to have a quorum of individuals in person, and then anybody else, once we get past those 4, can be online, but to have the meeting, have 4 in person, yes, ma'am.
It's just, I don't know how you all feel, but it just feels more productive than, we're sitting,
You're right.
maybe I'm on school. I don't know.
No, I actually agree with you. I think it is more productive to be in person. I actually do agree.
I mean, it
with
was
you.
different if we live in different cities.
Right, but everybody,
And Mr. Chair, I think that's a very good segue as far as when you want to set up the next meeting.
I got notes for it. You guys wanna do monthly meetings, bi-monthly meetings, every 3 weeks? Taking input, at the minimum, they're gonna be monthly.
I think a higher frequency to start with so that we get some traction.
About 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Every 2 weeks?
That works for me.
Okay.
2 weeks.
So I'll get you to look into
And what
kind of
day?
schedule. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday works best for me.
Yeah.
I'm gone on Thursday, so that's out.
Wednesday.
No.
I can't do Friday,
Oh,
Saturday.
Yeah. Can we
I
do
can't do
Wednesday?
Friday.
I think most people
Yeah.
Yeah.
might have something on Friday, so Wednesday.
Okay, so Wednesdays, and does this time work for you?
Yeah,
Or a bit later.
a bit later,
Yeah, it's a little hard.
Yeah.
4:30 is a little.
Yeah, a
hard.
little bit later.
Would work better. 5?
5,
Yeah.
let's do 5, yeah.
All right, now we do have, 3rd Wednesday is zoning board of adjustment,
Okay.
so the parking may be a little bit exciting. Rob and I can do without Shay's input, and then we have 4B as well.
I'll be at that ZBA meeting.
You'll be at that ZBA meeting.
Let's work on this one. So a couple
Yeah,
to get started, and see where we are.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe we go from every 2 weeks to every 3 weeks, which is still
Right.
accelerated.
Yeah,
But with everyone's commitment, that gives them a little bit more flexibility in trying to find a spot.
Yeah, and to miss that third, if it's the third Wednesday, that's a problem
So
to jump over, you know, if we,
Yeah.
if the every other puts us on that third Wednesday, we can
Right.
extend it
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
avoid that.
yeah,
okay, would you like us to do that? So we do every 2 unless it's the ZBA week and then we push it and do a 3.
yeah.
Yeah, just,
CBA's not meeting, but yeah.
right, cause that's your, it would conflict with
Yeah,
this.
and we're not meeting in February. we're good.
Oh,
What
okay.
the BSC is.
yeah.
What the BSC is.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe that one.
So
Good
next
job,
one.
y'all, to do that one. Okay, so we will look at the calendar, and we'll count this as week 1, so 2 weeks from today, and we will let you know what room we can lock down.
So we're looking at February 7th.
And then my next question for everyone here is, do you guys want to get really detailed oriented, like all the research, all that, or do you want to do the higher level and then nitpick the ones you want to look at or get detailed from the beginning?
I like that latter idea.
So stay high level, and then if we need
Yeah,
a deep dive
deep dive.
into individual topics, we'll go from there, which may extend us a little bit.
Yeah,
Because we'll be here going general level. Oh, wait, we want more info on that, which she will
Right.
not have prepared because she doesn't know to. We're okay with that?
I think that seems more reasonable, so we can get a high level view and then discuss it amongst ourselves, and then if we feel like there's something in there that we really need some information on, we can request that. That makes sense
that
to
makes
me.
sense to
I
me.
will, that's fine.
Cause we
I will
don't,
tell you,
we
I
don't
have the
wanna,
research done
yeah.
for a lot of this already.
yeah, right.
So it would just be more like, let me hit print. But if we go along, we will certainly do high level, and then if you have a question, we may be able to answer it at that meeting. If not, we can certainly go back and research it for you.
Okay.
Right,
And that way we don't get bogged down in the first 1 or 2, 3 meetings, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh, we spent all this time on something that could be spent on something more productive later on.
I will tell you that really 2 and 3 are gonna be your hardest ones. It's the council initiative referendum and recall.
Okay.
Once you get to Article 5, planning and zoning, that's pretty much already covered under state law.
No.
But the zoning board of adjustment's a little bit different. That's different state law, but yes. And then Article 6 is municipal finance, and there's not much you really care about that one. We adopt our budget every year. It's gotta be balanced, and we're gonna have a municipal court. So it's really Articles 2 and 3 that are gonna be the heavy hitters for you all.
All right, is it helpful to kind of give you the offline, just so we know we're out of country or whatever to?
Yeah.
If
use
you
the
can
dates?
email that to Brandon, that would be very nice. Thank you.
Wherever.
Brandon's gonna be doing every schedule, so you'll be getting emails from a Brandon Jackson. He's keeper of all good and evil.
We can give you the following, okay. A couple of little questions too, but you want to finish up on meetings, or? Okay, so, first you can send us a copy of the current charter, right? Email?
Yes, we can email you that. We have
Have you found it already? Or-
Yeah, it's online.
It's on the,
Oh, I can email, I can attach.
That would be
Where is it?
Every agenda if you'd
I
like.
just love that.
if,
It's on the web, but it always kills me, so.
yeah, if you just go under, well, sorry, I used pulled it up on Westlaw, I'm sorry, I can't, I mean, but it's
I'll
on,
look at that email too.
it's on the regular. too,
It is on
but
the
it's
city
public.
thing, but I will make sure it's attached to every appointment you have.
Thank you.
And yeah, you'll have it.
Just easier to have it in the.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes, ma'am.
All right, and then you mentioned a chance to meet the city manager and city council, so presumably those are key stakeholders. Are there other key stakeholders we should be interviewing for input on ideas of what should be changed, or is it just limited to what this group comes up with, or is there?
So just like ZBA, there is a public comment portion of this meeting. And so we have put out press releases. It's gonna be on the front page of our website. We will invite individuals,
Okay.
generally speaking. As far as anybody outside of council members, the city manager, I have not specifically asked anybody. If you'd like me to, I'm happy to do so.
Okay, so if we come up with some other folks we want to chat with or whatever,
Invite
we
them to
could-
the meeting, yes, please.
other witnesses we'd like to speak with, you know, whatever, we could ask for that, is what you're saying, we could.
Yes,
See, okay.
yes, but they can come and talk to the public comment.
Because I like that idea of what other cities are doing, just what other areas of input could we get? You know, because what other trends are out there, what other things are, what
Oh,
other,
we're the trendsetter.
what are the trends? or City of Sugar Land, and, you know, I realize that, but, anyways.
Everybody's about 3 years behind Sugar Land on decisions.
So right now.
And that may be,
Dallas-
yeah, so just again.
Dallas, San Antonio, and McKinney are all looking at that, and I have the various provisions. I also have the print-offs, if you were interested, on what has gone to election of the various cities of our size and larger in Texas from 2020. So you can see the different, ideas that other cities have taken forward on their ballot.
I think that
That'd be
would
great.
be interesting.
Yeah, that would
I
be
have that, I
fabulous.
just
Yeah.
go upstairs and print, and I actually email it to you, I hate to kill any more trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, save the trees.
Yeah.
I have that.
That's
So
what's
I heard
easy.
Plano is pretty progressive as far as their city, how they run their city. We smile. I know we've been up there a couple times, right? To look at how things are done.
We looked, I think it was a year ago, we went up there to do, as far as apartments and how it was blended in.
Mm-hmm.
So
Infrastructure.
I have Addison's 2021, I have Fredericksburg, I have El Paso, Fort Worth, Georgetown, North Richmond Hills, Pflugerville, San Angelo, San Antonio. I will call the city attorney of Plano to get there, and I think they're 2 years out, but I can definitely get Plano's.
Okay.
But these are all the ones that have been in Texas, our side of larger since 2020. But if you have any other cities you'd like me to look at, I'm more than happy. It's not hard at all.
I didn't know Fredericksburg was our size and larger.
Yeah,
Well, they're home ruled, and so I also,
Oh,
I
okay.
tried to pick up everybody. Since
I always think of
2020.
them as so.
They are smaller, yes, but,
But maybe they got some vineyards we can check out.
I do not have field trips, I apologize.
So we could talk to the mayor at the next.
I've invited them all, to attend, I haven't told them the date because we're gonna set it, so this is gonna be on their calendar as soon as I get upstairs and push Sheila or Kayla. And they will all be invited, they do have the opportunity to come to any of your meetings because these are open to the public, we are streaming.
So, have there been any complaints about the charter? Anybody making any statements to this how we change that, how we change it?
Sadly, most of our residents don't even know that we are a home rule, what a charter is or any of that. It just doesn't play into much of the day-to-day operations for them to be aware of that, which is one reason why we like to do this every 5 years. Just because then we get to put out a press release saying, hey, we're having a charter review commission, and maybe somebody reads that, gets interested and goes, what's a charter? But otherwise, we don't have complaints because most people don't know what it is.
Well, last year I didn't know either.
But I hope that you know a lot after this process. because
Well, I
this
took
is
the
the
Sugar Land
foundation.
Leaders course. That was my opening.
Good.
Yeah, that was very, very good. Enjoyed it.
So, just for general knowledge, what's the, standard term for mayor and council members?
3 years,
But we do this every 5 years.
yes.
Okay.
And it was changed from 2 years to 3 years, and then gone from 8 years to 9 years. Total.
Yeah,
And that's something else you can look at, whether or not you wanna aggregate them all together, so no matter which position you're in. Because right now, we have mayor as a separate position, so you can do 9 as a council member, and then sit there as a mayor for 9, so you have 18 years. And that's something to discuss, but that's just a preview of what you get to do in a few weeks or about a month.
Yeah,
But the only conflict you've identified is that one you said that
The resigned to
the
run.
resigned to
And
run.
having it there is not the end of the world, it's,
It's the
it's kind of,
clunky. Yeah,
but if it's there, if it's not there, it's the world still spins, as I like to say. It takes a lot to make the world stop spinning, and this is certainly not one of those issues.
does
But
anyone use that provision?
No.
Okay.
not since it was adopted in 2020. Or 2020, went to the November elections.
Is there anything that's like totally out of bounds on the charter, like, you know, I don't know, wild ideas people can come up with, but are there, no, that's not the intent of a charter, maybe that'll be in this,
Well,
read through this, maybe it'll kind of say what kind of the sandbox for a charter looks like.
as we go through, that's gonna be kind of a topic on each provision. If you were to ask for different samples, I can show you, like, the city of Bryan has a note that you can't do a contract for greater than 40 years. We don't have that provision. There are some state law provisions that say different leases cannot be that length. But there are some charters that are very, very much into the day-to-day, and they're very thick charters. They have a lot of information. Ours tends to be very lean. And so it's always a discussion, how lean is too lean? Do you want to put more boundaries, more barriers? I don't think the word barrier is appropriate. More controls,
Constraints.
constraint, structure. And we'll look through it each way, but as far as what's not appropriate, the city manager does run the day-to-day operations. So it would not be appropriate for the charter to say, paychecks are issued at this time on this date. But to say, this employees are paid bi-weekly, paid monthly, something like that. You could put it in the charter. I don't know that you want to get that much into the weeds.
I
But
think we might have some public comment from some city employees.
yeah, you may have some unhappy. But I think it's gonna make more sense once we dive
Yeah,
into it.
imagine so.
Because I will have examples of how other cities have them. Article 1 is pretty much basic for everybody. It's just very general stuff.
And then generically, if we come up with an idea and there's a city policy or something already in place, you'll let us know that's already being addressed by a city policy. And then we decide whether we want to just leave it as a policy or make it a charter issue once we talk.
Right, because if it's a charter issue, it has to be voted in and voted out. If it's a policy or an ordinance, either the city manager or the city council have the ability to unilaterally change.
Yeah.
City council whole can unilaterally
Yeah.
change it. So if it's an item that you feel is strong enough and important enough that you want it to be harder to change, then it most definitely should be in the charter. If you think it's something that should be able to flow, then perhaps an ordinance or a policy. And I'm still gonna take notes, so if you come up with something that is important to you that's probably not charter worthy, I'm still gonna give a report, and your report, y'all are gonna get a report, I'm sorry, but I will draft it for your review and make any revisions you like, but there will be a summary of other items discussed. So you'll have an opportunity to tell city council, we also discussed this, or we think it's more appropriate to be an ordinance or a resolution. So that will certainly be in your report.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions, comments?
Would you like a motion to adjourn?
That's why I did what I did. I make a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Done.
Well, thank you all very much.
Thank
So
you.
it's meeting everyone.
Stay dry.
When is our next meeting?
Your next meeting will be February 7th at 5 p.m.
Can you adjourn so I can make it?
February 7th,
And I was.
5 p.m.
Work on